What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. And man, Tim, we got some Boba Fett to talk about.
Yeah, Boba Fett or the Mandalorian.
Or the Mandalorian. Before we get into it, though, spoilers.
Yes.
Spoilers for Episode 5 or Chapter 5 and pretty much the entirety of
everything Boba Fett and
Yeah.
Mandalorian. If you are in any way in spoiler territory on either one of those shows, abandon ship now.
For sure.
Because we're going to be talking openly and freely about both shows.
All the way up to Episode 5.
Yeah, there's
Boba
a
Fett.
lot to talk about there on both ends.
Now, we knew, let's just get into it, because this is like the biggest thing we have to talk about today. And it was...
Oh, and also, hi, Variant.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so we knew from last week, Episode 4, Chapter 4, like, that Boba, at the end of that, Boba Fett and Fennec were like,
yeah,
we need to hire some muscle, right? Boba Fett's like, I got lots of money. And Fennec says, well, you could hire muscle with money. And then you hear the Mandalorian theme. So we knew Boba Fett was coming before the season started. We knew he was going to make a cameo somewhere in the season.
He was going to be involved on some level.
Yeah.
And apparently Boba Fett didn't know that you could pay to hire muscle. I'm still stuck on that.
But anyway, I didn't expect for Mandalorian to just be the entire episode. Not only was he the entire episode, like, Boba Fett wasn't in it. This was straight up.
It was the Mandalorian episode.
This was a Mandalorian. Like I told you, I felt like this was the 0 episode to season 3. Like, you could have started season 3 off with this episode and it would fit perfectly.
You would never know the difference.
Right?
Yeah. And the title of the episode was the most fitting thing ever. The Return of the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
I loved, as soon as I pulled it up, I just was like, oh man. Yep. Because that red meat for the fan base of just the throwbacks, Return of the Jedi, Return of the Mandalorian, because again, we're seeing, if this is going back to Din Djarin, which of course it did, we know he's got the Darksaber and he's coming into his own with that and what all that entails. So that right off the bat, I was excited just to see the title of the episode.
I love what Disney does with revealing that too. They're very smart. Where like when you see the thumbnail, before you click on it, it says Chapter 1, 2, 3, and you know whatever episode number it is. And then once you're in the episode, it'll say Chapter 5, then the title. Then the title. Yeah. So I think that's really cool to not spoil anything, which is really fun. Even though if you search online, I think you could find the list of titles, but like I ain't about that life. I like to find out. But man, wow. I mean, easily the best episode of the season, which is right.
Yeah.
It's amazing, but like kind of like, how is the best episode of the season an episode that you don't even see Boba Fett in?
Yeah.
When
the book of Boba Fett.
Right. That like I don't want to say it's like a gripe, because this episode was amazing and I love that we got it and that it was made.
I agree.
But it's just kind of a little weird that the best episode of the season thus far doesn't even have Boba Fett in it at all. Like literally, this was a Mando episode.
Yes.
Again, you could have put 100%. This in the first season, in the Mandalorian series, and you'd be like, yeah, this is just a Mandalorian episode, because that's what it was. But like Boba Fett wasn't in it, and I'm like, after the last episode where Boba Fett's healed, he's at 100%, he's hiring muscle and bounty hunters and stuff. I was excited to be like, oh. Now we're going to see him like come into his own, like, in season 2 of Mandalorian, where he's just this freaking like wall of like slab of meat just knocking guys over.
Right.
So again, I'm not complaining. It's just now we only have 2 episodes left with Boba Fett. And by the end of this episode, it sets things up where it's like, well, are we going to see Mando get Grogu, or is that going to go to season 3 and they'll skip that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know we got 2 episodes left for Boba to redeem himself.
I don't know that you can. My anticipation, and I could be totally wrong, my anticipation is that this Chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, this entire episode that was centered around Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, is going to, that whole thing with Grogu where he's going to go find Grogu, was a setup for season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Because again, with only 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett left, to explore that in any real way.
Yeah, Boba's got to prepare for a war.
Yeah.
He's going to war soon.
But well, he said, before I can go help you out, I've got to go see my little friend first, or visit a little friend or whatever. And so it's like, I'm going to do that before I go to Tatooine and help you with this issue.
Right.
So it's like, clearly there's got to be some kind of a gap in time if they're going to do that. But if you don't do that, and you continue to focus on Din Djarin and him wanting to reunite with Grogu, dude, how much time is that going to take up? Because to explore that in any real way, I mean, you're not going to be on Tatooine. I would imagine, unless he finds him there, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that seems unlikely. But, you're going to continue to explore with only 2 episodes left. I feel like that's a real... you're taking a lot away from Boba Fett, because this whole series was supposed to be like the exploration of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And what's going on. And I understand we may get multiple seasons of the Book of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's not the end of the world, and or whatever. But it does seem very odd that they would continue to explore this side story with Din.
Yeah.
When they spent the first 4 episodes setting up this whole internal conflict. This kind of family. This what do they call them? Not family. On Tatooine, the battle of the different tribes or
houses.
Houses. Thank you. They set up this conflict between the houses and the Pikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, what are you going to do? Wait till the last episode to try and shove everything together?
Yeah, that's, I'm very curious, because they did a lot in this episode to set up for Mando in his own season.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he's got a new freaking starship.
Yeah.
We see him using the Darksaber. We see him trying to learn how to wield it. We learn a lot about it, which we'll get into deeper here in a bit. But, like, it's set up so much for him that's, like you said, it's like, okay, but he wants to go see his little friend, which is Grogu. Even his new starship has that little, where the droid, where like an R2 unit would go.
Right.
In there, it's like she took it out, and now that's where you imagine Grogu's going to go. So they're like, oh, well, clearly he freaking made armor, or had armor made for Grogu. He's got that space in a ship for Grogu. He's mentioned him several times. He's clearly thinking about him, where he's on like that space bus essentially, and the little alien kid's looking at him, and you see it's like he misses the child. So they're setting all this up that Grogu's returning, and he was going to go see him. But are we going to see that in this season?
I don't know. I mean, this set up so many different things.
Because one of my theories is like, okay, what if he does, and when he goes and, Grogu's with Luke, or even Cal Kestis, which that was a moment, Tim.
Yeah, that's a separate part of this conversation.
That's the moment. We'll talk about why that's a possibility now. During this time frame, Luke and Cal are both Jedi. There is very few Jedi out there. We know for sure that Luke is one and Cal is one. Cal, at this point in time of the Boba Fett Mandalorian timeline, is in his mid-30s. He's around 34, 35, so it works. So what if Din goes and then comes back with Luke and Cal? Could you imagine somehow? I don't know why they would help Boba Fett. I don't know how they would make that work, but what if there's something there where we get Jedi in on this?
I think that's very possible. I think it's very possible that we could see that. And that was one of my thoughts, is like, are they setting this up for also like whatever Jedi Order is being rebuilt? Because we know that's what Luke Skywalker sets out to do.
Because
comes to their aid.
Because we know Boba Fett, one of the things that, me and a lot of fans and you, I'm sure, have been like, this seems a little out of character for Boba Fett, but they've been pushing, especially in episode 4, that he's changing his ways. Like, he's not about the bounty hunter life anymore. He's about family. He wants to rule and stuff, but not so much like, just with an iron fist, I guess. So what if, like, by the end of this, there's this weird unspoken alliance between the Jedi that are left and Boba Fett? And, like, Boba Fett's not necessarily good, but he's doing what's in his best interest, which would be to, like, stay neutral among everything. Right? Because we know he doesn't want to be a bounty hunter anymore. He said it. He's not in the bounty hunter life anymore.
No,
he doesn't want to do
out
it.
of the business.
So it's like they're doing something. I feel like, especially with Filoni involved, overseeing everything with Favreau and stuff, basically being the living encyclopedia of Lucas himself, he wouldn't, I think, allow these characters to do certain things unless it was for a certain end game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that what we're building towards is possibly this, because this is my point. So one of the things that they explored in this episode was the Empire's destruction of Mandalore, right?
You see a flashback of it,
Yes.
which is dope.
It was crazy. And that whole like Terminator-esque
Very James
like
Cameron.
clearance of, you know, whatever was left, you know, by the
There's been a lot of nods in this
the
series
droids.
to like popular franchises like that. Like even episode 3, you see the Back to the Future nod. Where the car lands into the fruit, but it was like the manure coming on Biff.
Well, this was like this episode. It had more callbacks and Easter eggs, arguably, than any other episode we've gotten from either show.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. If it wasn't more, it's up there with episodes that had the most. Callbacks from Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, and then of course the prequels.
Phantom Menace,
dude.
like
the N1 Starfighter, from just crazy.
Dude, that Naboo Starfighter that was given to Mando, and now that's his new ship.
Yeah, man. If that was Anakin's,
dude.
Come on.
The Starfighter, I remember as a kid when the prequels came out, because those are the ones that, again, I've seen the original trilogy in theaters when they re-released it in the 90s, but when Star Wars was reintroduced to the public with the prequels, that's when I was a kid. So that's technically my generation of Star Wars, right? And I remember all the toys and like seeing the double-bladed lightsaber from Maul for the first time, freaking out, and even the Naboo Starfighter. And I was like, this thing looks so
amazing,
cool, so sleek and like dragster-esque, like just
it was like
very
Star Wars version of Flight of the Navigator.
It was a very, very cool design. To me, it was like, oh, this is like our generation's X-Wing. You know what I mean?
I love that ship and Queen Amidala's transport ship.
Oh yeah.
That thing was dope. It looked like a cross again between Return of the Flight of the Navigator and like a stealth fighter. Or no, the Blackbird is the one.
Yeah.
Kind of looked like. But yeah, it was amazing. But they had all kinds of callbacks to the prequels. Again, when he tests out that same N1 Starfighter and he goes off on his first test flight, he retraces the flight path of Anakin, young Anakin, with the pod racer
from Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Same track.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff.
Did you notice that his Starfighter now, literally, the sounds of it are from Anakin's pod racer?
No, I didn't pick up on that.
The sounds. It literally, they took the sounds from the pod racers and incorporated it with his new N1 Starfighter.
Dude.
So like literally, that N1 Starfighter is Anakin and pod racer all over it, from the same track to the way the engine sounds in it.
Man.
Just
Can you imagine if we find out that that's Anakin's old N1 Starfighter?
Man,
because he flew one.
Yeah, he stole it.
Yeah,
he was a kid. Yeah.
So I really, if we end up finding out that that's what that was, that like or confirmed, because that's my speculation. Just kind of like with BD1. When you see the BD droid, the first thing you're like, oh my God, is that BD1?
Which is why
they don't confirm that.
Right.
But it seems like that's a crazy tease.
I literally put my hands on my head when that happened, because I'm currently playing through Fallen Order right now.
Oh, that's right.
So
I'm
in it currently.
Right.
I'm like halfway through the game.
So then now it's like
so I'm like, no freaking way. I'm like, that's BD. Like again,
the color scheme of the droid is different. That's why it's like we don't know for sure.
But that
can change. It could wear off.
But in the game too, you can change the skins and stuff all the time. Even Cal's clothes you can change. So I'm like, it does. But it's a BD droid, not BD1 it seems. But I'm like, when they first
we don't know.
We don't know. Well, yeah, they didn't say BD1. We could be.
They didn't. They just said BD. But Cal Kestis calls the droid BD constantly in the game.
I guess. I don't know. Point is, when they first showed it and you see it like jump on screen because it went to black, and then you see that, I'm like, if you pan up and I see a redheaded Jedi, I swear this is gonna be amazing. I was like, no way are they doing this to me right now.
Yeah, but they also gave us our first live action look at the Womp Rats.
They did,
that have been talked about for all of
Luke
Star
used to
Wars.
say Luke was like, I would shoot Womp Rats down with his speedster, or his land speeder.
I mean, just so much stuff.
Or that piece, I forget what it's called, but when Mando is giving the Jawas like a list of parts, and they finally bring that big pipe back
from
the Pikes, that is actually the same not the same one, but the same type of piece that Han and Luke use in the trash compactor to help it like not crush them.
That's
it's the same exact part, which
That's
I'm like, the amount of callbacks are crazy.
Crazy. There were so many. Kind of got off on a little tangent there because there was this episode was so riddled.
Wait, there's one more. Mando.
There's a bunch more.
There's a bunch more, but when Mando says wizard, which is like
young Annie again.
Yeah, with his best friend.
Dude.
He used to say that. It's like a cool, like, it's like saying shui or something like that.
It was, I mean, in the movie, that was like, because so many of the things that young Anakin did was kind of like annoying a little bit. But it's just an amazing callback that they instituted so many things across the first 6 films. That it was just impressive that they were able to work in as many things as they did.
Yeah.
Even the mythosaur, where they made reference to the mythosaur.
They did.
And they talked about how it's like, it's only in Legends.
Which was funny.
And it's like so funny because technically it's still only in Legends.
But it's weird though, because Boba Fett when he got the Rancor in the previous episode said he rode a beast 10 times the size, which is referring to the mythosaur.
Yeah.
So are we gonna see that, or are we gonna see Mando ride one?
It only makes sense for them to officially pull that into canon because of what they're doing with the Mandalorians. So it only makes sense for them to do it. Plus, could you imagine if we get a Star Wars dragon? Dude. Oh, come on, man.
That's what I think I liked most about this episode, where it was just because it's like the Mandalorians and Jedis are like neck and neck for me as far as like races or just what was the word? Not races.
Characters.
Houses.
Just characters.
Characters, sure.
Character types.
Character types, yeah. Mandalorians and Jedi. I was like, there's got to be a more sophisticated word for that. But anyways, the Mandalorians and Jedis, they're like neck and neck for me. So this was like a history class for Mandalorians, essentially. Like the armorer is basically breaking down the lineage for the audience and for Mando in this episode of like how it fell, what happened with Bo-Katan, history of the lightsaber. We learned in this episode, we learned things about the lightsaber we never knew before. Like apparently you can't just wield it. You can't just swing it around like a lightsaber.
The dark saber.
Sorry, did I say lightsaber?
You said lightsaber.
Lightsaber. So we learned new things about the dark saber in this episode, where you can't just swing it around. You have to know how to use it.
Well, we did see Sabine Wren experience similar issues when in Rebels when she was being trained by Kanan. So we did. There was some of that was already relayed in Star Wars canon. It's just they pulled that into the live action, which I thought also was extremely cool.
I haven't finished Rebels, so I didn't see that.
You haven't finished that, so that is also in there. You do see that.
So they explore it more here, I guess, than the first time in live action. But what's interesting to me is that Moff Gideon didn't have a problem using it. So he figured out how to use it. How long has he had this?
Yeah.
We know he got it from Bo-Katan. They still haven't told us how. We know he obviously took it from her. We haven't seen exactly how that went down yet.
And they explored the reality that she did what was given to her. She was the first time that it was given, and she inherited it essentially instead of it being one in combat.
That's not how it works,
right?
Which it cursed Mandalore,
right,
and caused the fall and destruction of Mandalore, which was really
crazy.
Like they just fleshed out all this stuff,
so many,
and
things.
They kept like asking him, "It's like you won this in combat, right?" And like, yes. So it's like, okay, so if you won it in combat, things will be good this time. Maybe our planet won't die.
But overall, I would say, what we were looking at in this episode is further hinting at the idea that, again, kind of going full circle back to, we see this flashback to the destruction of Mandalore, and we know that the Jedi had already been destroyed, almost wiped out, almost. And they're in the middle of a rebuilding process, similarly to the Mandalorians. So you're seeing this situation where they're creating it to where the Mandalorians and the Jedi are in the same boat.
Yeah.
The Empire, through Order 66 and the purge of the Jedi, and the destruction of Mandalore, the assault on Mandalore and the destruction of their planet and people, and scattered them. Same exact thing that happened to the Jedi. So it's almost as if you're seeing it being set up to where these once mortal enemies, right, the Jedi and the Mandalorians, will now find their way back to each other as a form of ally, right, to secure the future of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, there's little hints of that are taking place. Again, where you see Din Djarin and his interaction with Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka, right? And him, can I say that too? The spear, Din Djarin's got the spear and the Darksaber. He takes it to the Forger, and the Forger's is like, yeah, the very existence of that spear poses a threat to our people.
Yeah.
You should melt it down. Like it should be destroyed, essentially. And they destroy the freaking Beskar spear. I was so mad because that was such a dope weapon.
But now
I think that might actually come back into play against him.
Oh, that like he needs
because
it?
Is it Parvisla or Palvisla?
I don't know.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's a descendant of Tarvisla.
Yeah, exactly. So we see him go into conflict. We see him get into conflict with Din because when he shows up, he finds them and he seeks to reunite with them and kind of become part of their
that's how
coven.
The episode starts. He's doing a bounty to get the location of the armorer, and he's he obviously we kind of went around that.
I was calling her a forger. It's the armorer. Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Let's briefly start with the beginning of the episode, okay?
It's Pazvisla.
But real quick. This episode starts off with him, getting his bounty, calling the guy out who's lying to him. He's like, no, I know you're the dude I'm looking for. Pulls out his Darksaber, starts going crazy, inadvertently burns himself with the Darksaber.
Yeah.
But after that...
Not before he goes full-blown Scarface.
That's what I was going to say.
On the entire group.
After that, he literally stabs him with the dagger in him, uses that to leverage him, flip him around on a table, and then cut the dude in half.
Yes.
Only for camera to go out, you see a silhouette of him from the outside of all the employees looking in, all the butchers there. You see him reunite the Darksaber, swing it. You're like, what did he just swing at? And he comes out with a freaking blanket with a head inside of it. Yeah. So he cut him in half and chopped his head off. I'm like, this is so awesome.
And then he walks out. And by the way, those characters that are in this episode is another callback to Return of the Jedi, the Clatoonians.
Freaking.
Because you haven't seen them very much.
The Bulldog guys?
Yeah, the Bulldog race. But he comes walking out after having just destroyed an entire room full of them. He comes walking out, and it's like a butcher shop, essentially.
Yeah, 100%.
And he comes walking out, and there's a whole group of them, and they've all got their cleavers in their hands, and he just kind of is like, listen, if you're willing to honor me by letting me pass, you can have all the money that's in there. Your boss is dead. You can have whatever it says. That whole scene, it was just, and he brings back the line, I can take you in cold, warm, or I can take you in cold.
Which is, I need a shirt that says that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I just need a shirt
They
that says
definitely need a shirt for that.
But it was also kind of like reminiscent of what Anakin did to Count Dooku, where he literally slit his head off in front of Palpatine. I'm like, so that was, I don't know if you could say that's an Easter egg, but it was definitely like heads get chopped off in Star Wars with freaking energy blades, Darksaber or lightsaber.
But going back to his conflict with Pazvisla sees that he has the Darksaber, and immediately he feels it should be his because he comes from House Visla, which the creator of, or the forger of the Darksaber is Tar Visla, and they actually go into that mythology, or that the mythos of that in this episode also, which is another callback to the Clone Wars, Rebels. Which one is it that does that? Is it Clone Wars where we see that?
Rebels really, because Kanan breaks down.
That's right.
Like
It's Rebels.
Visla. Yeah,
it's Rebels. Anyway, so they end up in conflict and fight each other. He challenges him for the Darksaber.
Well, you got to mention first that the armorer says that Tar Visla was a Jedi and Mandalorian.
Correct.
The only ever Jedi and Mandalorian.
Right. Combo Jedi Mandalorian.
I have a theory for that later.
Yeah.
More on that later.
So they actually, that was already confirmed for canon. But that, again, in live action, this is the first time we're getting this stuff actually addressed. But anyway, so he challenges him for the Darksaber, and Din wins in the end. But Din winds up getting cast out because the armorer says, "Have you ever removed your helmet?" She goes through kind of the creed, and it ends with, "Have you ever removed your helmet?" And Paz Vizsla says no, and Din just sits there quiet. Eventually having to admit that he has, and she says
several times actually.
Yeah. And she says, "Then you're a Mandalorian no more." right? And he's like, I beg forgiveness. Can I be, is there something I can do, sort of a thing? And she basically says the only way for you to be redeemed and restored is in the pools of Mandalore.
Yeah, and he's like, it's destroyed. It's not there anymore.
Well, it's underneath,
it's
whatever.
gone.
And she's just like, well, no one would tell you, bro, right? And he winds up having to leave.
I thought at that moment, when she said you're no longer a Mandalorian, he was gonna have to give the darksaber over or something like that. I'm like,
that's not.
I was like, are you? Well, I thought it was gonna be like
he won it in combat.
He did
twice.
I know, but I'm like, is there gonna be something like a conflict there, where like a fight where now she's fighting him because she was like training him before all this,
yes,
and she was taking him to school. She was
easily
because he didn't know how to use it
right.
yet. So she was like just using her armor tools and like
right.
literally takes like that freaking big. I don't know what you call it. I'm sure there's a real name for it that forgers and stuff use, but it's like big clamp, like big plier looking things. But she literally puts it on the chin of his helmet, like, and lifts it up like little boy.
Smacks him on the head at one point.
Yeah.
So, my broader point is that while he beats Paz Vizsla in battle, retains the Darksaber and ends up having to leave. Right, he gets cast out because of the admission that he had taken his helmet off, and that's part of their religion. Again, that's when she tells the story. Well, I'll get to that in a second. He winds up leaving, but the spear remains behind, or at least the portion of it that they saw her. So it looks like they may have just taken the tip off.
Did you see the actual rest of the spear in the shot, or are you just assuming they left the rest of it?
No, he didn't have it anymore.
Well, because she melted it down and made the little chain links.
They
for
only
Grogu.
showed her melting down the tip, and what she gave him, what she forged out of it was this tiny little thing. It
was a pouch that was reminiscent of Grogu's head.
Yeah, so whatever it was in the shape of his head. But whatever is in there, it certainly wasn't made up of the entire spear, which means she had the rest of it or something. So my question is that going to come back into play at some point where he's going to wind up maybe reforging it or whatever to be able to take down Din? Is that going to come back to haunt him, giving that up? I don't know. But certainly it seems like we're moving in the direction of the reuniting of the Jedi, kind of him being like the one that brings balance, I guess. So they'll play on that where he's the next one to become the next Jedi Mandalorian sort of a thing, and the Jedi support him. Yeah. That sort of a thing. Because the other thing that they referenced, that she referenced, was she basically confirms the Night Watch on the Mandalorian moon.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why they survived. So that confirmed that Din was there, and that's why he's a part of what they consider that more radical religion of the Night Watch and stuff. Not the Night Watch.
Well, she said that's...
What's the name of it?
Yeah, you were going Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm going Game of Thrones. I ended up at the Game of Thrones.
The Night Watch. No, that's not it.
Is it the Death Watch?
Death Watch is what it is, yes.
Sorry. Too much watching in nerddom. So you've got that explaining why his version, what he had adhered to, was kind of a more strict Orthodox version of Mandalorian.
And she says that's why they died, and because we're on top of it, we're alive.
Yeah. But he's
very passive aggressive.
Well, my point is that's what he knew, but he's moving away from it and towards a balance of the Mandalorian religion and the Jedi religion.
Well, they even that kind of goes to where my next theory is, because when she's forging his Beskar spear, she's like, well, what do you want? He's like, how about an armor for a foundling? And she's like, okay. He's like, who? He's like, Grogu. And she's like, but he's not in your care anymore. He's with the Jedi. And he basically is like, yeah, but I want to give it to him. And she's like, but Jedis can't care for people. They can't be attached to anyone they can't love, which is the whole big thing with Anakin and why he turned to the dark side and all that stuff. It's just, you can't, it's like being a monk. You have to be committed. You can't have relationships and stuff like that. And she's like, that's their creed. And he's like, but our creed is like solidarity and loyalty.
Community, yeah.
Yeah, community. So it's like, that's the second time they mention that, because in season 2, Ahsoka, when she's training Grogu for the first time, like assessing him, she's like, he's not doing it because he has an attachment to you. She's like, I can't train him. He's like, no, you need to train him. This keeps getting brought up.
That's right.
That Grogu and Mando obviously have this connection with one another, and they're not supposed to. So you got Ahsoka being like superior for like the Jedi. You got Armor being like the head over here, and both like these, heads are telling Mando and Grogu, you guys, this is not how this works.
Yeah.
You're Mandalorian, you're a Jedi.
You're not exactly like a weird Romeo and Juliet.
Right. So I feel like there's going to be some kind of hybrid there.
Yep.
Where when Mando meets him again, is Mando going to be the next Jedi Mandalorian?
This is what I'm saying.
Could Grogu teach him, or what if it goes the other way? Because Grogu,
or what if both? And again, this is kind of what you're saying is exactly my point. Like I feel like Din Djarin and even Grogu, they're being painted as the bridge between the two groups.
Like just the ones that stays a Jedi, one stays a Mandalorian, but now they're working together. Or
both. What if Grogu ends up becoming a Mandalorian Jedi? He adopts because of Din.
I swear.
And they each goes the opposite. You know, Grogu's force sensitive. Din is a Mandalorian.
Can you imagine Grogu wearing a Mandalorian helmet?
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like they forged him something. So if he winds up with Mandalorian armor and he becomes a Jedi, I'm talking about Grogu, to where he's like kind of a Mandalorian Jedi or a Jedi Mandalorian.
I don't know.
Din is a Mandalorian Jedi. It would be insane.
What I will do if they give Grogu a Mandalorian helmet with his little ears popping out.
Pretty great.
Dude, and then just his like little lightsaber.
Oh man, that would be great.
Man.
That would be great.
That would be hilarious.
That would be
and
great.
amazing. But yeah, there's lots of possibility there, and they're freaking throwing it all there. Like, hey, they're reuniting. So it's gonna happen. But what happens when they reunite? And obviously, Grogu is currently with Luke. Luke's not gonna just leave him. Right. So the next time we see Grogu, we have to at least briefly see Luke. You would imagine. Like, what is he gonna be like? Oh, Grogu's gonna be like, oh, Luke left me by myself with the blah blah blah. It's like no, unless Cal is like Luke left him in Cal's keeping, and Cal kind of like a Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin thing, where Luke tells Cal like, "Hey, you didn't make Grogu your Padawan." That would be dope. That would be cool. That would be cool. So because if Luke is mentoring, well, because we know that Luke is the head of the Jedi Order now. Yes, we know that. So he's a Master Jedi. He's the head of the Jedi Order. He's rebuilding the Jedi Order. So that would be pretty cool. Oh, even though Cal is older than Luke. Is Cal older than Luke? Cal is older than Luke by about 12 years. But he ain't a Skywalker. Roughly. He ain't a Skywalker. No. No. I mean, Luke is the head of the Jedi Order. So it's like, I'm very curious, you know, the fact that they had this BD droid, because we know that, again, the Jedi Fallen Order is in canon, and we never get the resolution, even though recently, you know, Lucasfilm did, or is it Lucas Games? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. EA and Lucasfilm. Yeah. They announced that they are doing a follow-up to Fallen Order 2, or they're doing Fallen Order 2. So we're going to get to see more and learn more about what happened to Cal Kestis after what we saw and experienced. Don't spoil it for me yet. I'm playing through. I will not. No spoilers for that. What a freaking great game. It's one of the few games that I have completely finished. It's a long game. It is. I've been playing for a while. I loved it. Like I played for an hour last night after watching. It added so much additional mythology to the Star Wars right universe. After Order 66 and all that stuff. It was great. I absolutely love that game. Those Purge Troopers, they're crazy, annoying. They're annoying. Awesome looking, very cool, but man, when you're fighting them, it's like, really, dude, really. Like also, the Night Sisters. The Night Sisters, yeah. I only fought them once so far. I'm assuming that's going to be the big boss in the end. I won't say. I don't know. I won't say. I won't even hint. Okay. I will say that you know who I just ran into in the game. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't played the game. I think this is so you can tell me how far I'm in it by this point. Oh my gosh, Forrest Whitaker's character from Rogue One. Yes, Saul Guerrera. I just left him and now doing something else. Okay, so you're right around the halfway point. That's halfway point. That's about. There's a good amount of game left then, huh? There's a good amount of game left. That's fun because they keep sending me because there's like 4 main. Because you're on the jungle planet. Right? I can't remember the name of the planet. Yes, I had to look at this. What is the last thing I did last night? I don't want to say anything because I don't know where you are. I had to find the Zepho statue. I had to look at that and turn it on. And I think I saw Rex on a hologram, like from the Clone Wars. Okay. Like he's talking about like, you know, I guess Order 66 and stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Rex. Looked like Captain Rex. There's definitely a lot of game left for you. But anyway, the point is that the game introduces us to this Cal Kestis, who's about 10 to 15 years older than, you know, give or take a few years, than Luke Skywalker. And so we'll say 12 years is like roughly in the middle.
And so he would be older, but Luke is still the head of the Jedi Order, the Master Jedi. Cal really would not have had any formal training like Luke did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did when he was young.
Right.
They show that in the game. But then his training wasn't continued, and whereas Luke had Yoda and so on, and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so it would be wild, and that's a really mean tease if they show this, they focus on specifically this BD droid without intention of bringing Cal, because Cal at this time is only between like 35 and 40 years old. He would still be very young.
Yeah.
So it would be more than possible for them to introduce him live action, and that would even seem more than reasonable to do, considering they introduced him into canon just a couple of years ago.
We were there for that Star Wars Celebration when they announced Fallen Order.
Yeah.
And I remember they were introduced, I think, didn't Filoni help introduce it too, if I remember correctly, or no?
I don't remember who
he was there for
the entire panel.
They debuted the trailer for season 7 of Clone Wars, and then, but I remember
also the Rise of the Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker and Fallen. Wow, that was a big year for Star Wars.
That was when what's his name that plays the Emperor.
Yeah,
he came out. Run it again,
dude. I still have that on my iPhone. That video.
So do I. Yeah, and even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie,
it was just cool being there with fans.
That experience was
like
freaking amazing.
Just everyone, like, you could turn to the person next to you and be like, I know, right? You're not awesome. And
everybody's like high-fiving each other, like,
camaraderie.
This is amazing.
And then we saw the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway. But all that to say that Mando, Grogu, all that stuff is great. All the Easter eggs, that now he's got like a Naboo starfighter. Oh, freaking! He runs into the X-wing. X-wings.
Yeah, the X-wing,
New Republic.
The New Republic cops.
Dude, the cops, they just pull him over.
Yeah. The fact that they keep pulling him over in space in X-wings is hilarious to me. It's like cops, like Keystone cops in X-wings. It's hilarious.
It's so good. And then he just freaking, books it, which is great.
But I loved how they did that scene too, where he's like, your voice sounds familiar, because they're about to let him go. He's about to let him off with a warning, because he was testing this new N1 starfighter, and it's not registered. And they go through this kind of like pretty funny scene. And he's like, I'll get it taken care of right away. And he's like, yeah, we can let him off with a warning, sort of a thing. And the one guy, the one cop, the one New Republic cop is like wanting to take him in, and the other one's like, we can let him off. He's like, but your voice kind of sounds familiar, and he starts asking some questions in relation to some previous incidents. And Din Djarin just kind of slowly turns and looks at him, goes dead silent, and then hits this button inside the N1 starfighter, where she's just like, if you hit this button, basically, I can't remember what she said, you'll evacuate your something shaft or whatever, if you know what I mean. And he hits the button, and I mean, just like a bat out of hell, just takes off. And they're just left sitting there like cops when they're up against a Lamborghini or something like that, or one of the speed bikes. And they're like, should we follow him? Do you want to spend all day doing paperwork? It was just really clever,
because that's what they do.
Cops do with cops deal with for real,
like with crotch rockets and stuff.
Yeah,
like, we're not chasing that. One, it's dangerous. Two, like, we're not going to catch him.
Catch the guy.
But that was awesome. We didn't talk about how it's like a hot rod though too.
Yeah,
it's
very much
straight up like Fast and the Furious.
Dude, it's got like the exhaust.
Or the header.
What do you call it? The air. Man, as you can tell, I'm not a car guy. What do they call that? Is it the air manifold?
Something like this.
The thing that comes out of the top of the hood.
Is it like a header?
I
thought it was a header.
I don't know.
All right,
something.
Yeah, we're clearly not the car guys.
Yeah, we're not car guys.
Anyway, it looked like a cool muscle car hot rod that's now in the Star Wars universe.
So cool.
So
loved
very
it.
Cool. But all that to say, Mandalorian headed, Mando and Grogu, awesome, headed in some really, really cool directions. We got no progression for Boba Fett.
None.
Like,
not even like a hint at it.
The
entire episode was dedicated to Din Djarin.
They should have actually just like crossed out the Book of Boba Fett title and put a stamp like, boom, Mandalorian, like over it.
Yes.
Because there was, at the very end, Fennec comes up.
And then Fennec Shan shows up at the end, and
she's like, hey.
Got a job for you.
Yeah, Boba needs some muscle. And he's like, it's on the house. But then he says, well, I got to go meet a little friend first. And that's where it ends. But amazing episode nonetheless.
Great episode.
I'm just worried for Boba Fett a little
Loved
bit.
it. I thought it was such a great step away, with the one small caveat of what does this do to, to further the story of Boba Fett. With only 2 episodes left, it doesn't leave us much time or room to continue to do that or to really bring it together really strongly. Having said that, they might not be looking to this. Might be a setup, for not just Mandalorian 3, but for the next season, but also maybe for Ahsoka. Yeah. Also maybe for Boba Fett season 2. Mm-hmm. We don't know. So, but that was a surprise, welcome. And Bryce Dallas Howard, by the way, directed this episode, and she just did a phenomenal job. Phenomenal job.
She is becoming one of my favorite directors for the Star Wars episodes.
Absolutely.
It's
just
crazy.
Killing it.
Freaking crazy.
You can tell she grew up around it.
Dude, I can't. Again, this is one of my favorite Mandalorian episodes, period, even from his own first 2 seasons. Like, this was just a solid episode. I mean, you see him wielding the Darksaber, all the Mandalore history, he gets a new ship, all the Easter eggs to the original trilogy and the prequels. Just, man, I don't have a bad thing to say about this episode. I liked every I watched it twice.
Yeah.
Literally, it ended.
And you started it over?
I started it over.
I didn't do that.
And then I played a little bit of Fallen Order.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I loved the episode. So fun. So many great callbacks and Easter eggs in the episode. The one lament is, and I would even go so far as to say, I was left kind of feeling like a little bit like this kind of did a disservice to Boba Fett, because it furthered kind of the reality of how much cooler Din Djarin is than Boba Fett so far. Boba Fett's super cool. Don't get me wrong. Iconic character. Love him. I mean, he's never gonna fall out of the graces of, Star Wars fandom. He's a longtime fan favorite. But after watching this episode, you're kind of like, this was so much cooler than anything they've done with Boba Fett. And that does a disservice to Boba Fett in a way.
I mean, I said that last week, but then they took us because we knew Mando was going to be in this next episode.
Right.
But we didn't know he was literally going to be the entire episode. I thought at some point he was going to meet up with Boba Fett.
Exactly, yeah.
So now I'm like, all right, well, maybe once he sees Mando again, it'll reunite his we got to freaking bust some skulls.
We'll see. I am so curious to see what they do now with
Bash
Chapter
Brothers.
6. Yeah, Chapter 6, man.
Filoni's writing it or wrote it.
I know, which makes you really go back to, okay, well, I'm really wondering, again, going back to the Jedi Mandalorian crossover thing, this is the last thing I'll say about it. I'm wondering, are we going to get to wrap up this and to help Boba Fett solidify his position on Tatooine are we going to see Ahsoka, Luke Skywalker, Cal Kestis, and a small group of the remaining Jedi come to his aid in a killer final episode where they just show, kind of like when the Mandalorians helped him in the end of season 1 to protect Grogu and get him off world?
Yeah.
Right? Where you just see all the Mandalorians show up and they're fighting. And it was one of the most epic scenes in the entire first season.
Wasn't that also Bryce Dallas Howard? Or was that Chow?
I don't remember who directed that one. I can't remember now. It's too many years ago, Arris. Too many episodes ago. But are we going to see something like that where we just get this mind-blowing moment of what is happening right now?
I mean, I hope
it's possible.
I don't know. 2 episodes left.
But I don't know. Maybe that made me asking too much, but 2 episodes left is right, so we'll see.
I kind of want to find out what the title of next week's episode's called, but I don't at the same time.
No, I want to just let it come to me naturally.
I got Peacemaker to watch tonight.
Yeah,
so that'll hold me over.
There you go. But staying with Star Wars, now that we've both agreed Mandalorian was great, kind of did a disservice to Boba Fett, but it was great. But staying with Star Wars, we also got some news this past week that Mary Elizabeth is it Winstead? Yeah, Winstead. Yep. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is joining the cast of Ahsoka, the Ahsoka series, alongside Rosario Dawson, also obviously who's reprising her role as Ahsoka, and also who's already been confirmed, Hayden Christensen.
Darth Vader.
Good Lord.
Anakin.
With names right now. Hayden Christensen is reprising his role as Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader, we would assume in flashbacks, obviously. Although we don't fully know what they're doing with the Ahsoka series, but the anticipation would be it would be flashbacks. So that's an ad. We don't know who she's playing, but it seems as though she will be playing a prominent role. So that could be very interesting. Who do you think that could be? Do you have any theories?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like she's probably going to be like an original character, like a character we haven't been introduced to yet.
Yeah.
Because isn't Sabine Wren also in Ahsoka as well? I believe they cast her a while back too.
I don't know.
She got cast in something. It's either Mandalorian season 3 or Ahsoka. I don't remember which one, but I know I remember seeing the girl they casted as her and being like, they're bringing Sabine in live action. That's amazing.
I think I remember that too, and
a few months ago.
Yeah. Again, too many.
So not her.
Too many cast announcements.
So it's not gonna be her. But I don't know. Maybe an original character. Maybe a villain.
I kind of feel like this. Is it possible?
Asajj Ventress.
That's where I was going.
Can you imagine?
That's where I was going. People. Is it possible that we might get something like a Night Sister or an Asajj Ventress?
Asajj Ventress would be dope.
She could be an Inquisitor of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different things. So I'm just wondering, is she going to be a villain? Is she going to be a hero? What are they going to do?
She would make a dope Ventress. That'd be cool.
That could be a very
I'm trying
cool
to
ad.
Like with the makeup and the bald cap and all that
stuff. She'll look totally different. You'll barely recognize her.
Well, she's already got short hair. I bet you she would shave her head for the role.
Dude.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'm just looking up right now to see if yes, you did remember right. And Sabine Wren is going to be in Ahsoka.
It's Ahsoka, okay.
And it's Natasha Lubordizo.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar with her.
So, man, this is shaping up to be
She's an Australian actress.
A loaded series. Because we got Thrawn, Ezra, Ahsoka.
Well, we don't know Ezra for sure.
I mean, if Thrawn's there, the whole reason she wants to get Thrawn is because of Ezra.
Yeah. you would assume that he's going to appear at some point. I mean, the direction that they were going was they were already hinting at as the villain. What's his face? Another name brain fart going on.
Not Thrawn, right? Not what I just said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Thrawn. You already said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're already hinted at Thrawn potentially coming into the
Wasn't he also already cast?
No, there's no official casting
he's not? Okay.
for it. Okay, I'm looking at it right now, and there's no official casting announcement for Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
But again, based on what we saw in Mandalorian season 2 and things like that, things they hinted at, we got direct hints at Ezra, Thrawn, Thrawn specifically. But you get Thrawn, the speculation is that you will likely get Ezra at some point. So there's all kinds of things going on.
Right.
And they're clearly building a lot of different pieces so that they can do a lot of different things with Star Wars on Disney Plus, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So far, all the things that they've done have been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarrely, I would say Book of Boba Fett has been the slowest thing that. Now, granted, we've only gotten the Mandalorian, but 2 seasons of the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett slowed down quite a bit up until these last 2 episodes, where it started incrementally building up. Episode 4 was really good. Wasn't super action-packed or anything, but it was definitely a great episode.
It was a great episode, yep.
And then this episode, which was, centered around Din Djarin and the Mandalorian, was great. But, how they're going to build all this out, I don't know. We'll see how once we get casting. But with Mary Elizabeth joining the cast of Ahsoka, it certainly opens up the door of, okay, who is this going to be? What else are they doing here? And they're
bringing in some big names too.
That's pretty fun.
They're bringing in some big names. And real quickly, Ewan McGregor has said that the Kenobi trailer he doesn't know when it's coming, but soon.
Which tells you if we're getting it soon, that means the series is likely coming soon.
I say May the 4th would be the perfect time. What's a better time to release that series than right then and there?
And it would be right after Moon Knight wraps up.
Oh my gosh, it would be.
So that makes perfect sense because now we know we're getting Moon Knight on March the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So Moon Knight, assuming again that it's about 6 to 7 episodes. Do we know how many episodes Moon Knight is?
6, I believe 6.
6. So if that's the case, it's going to be wrapping up right at that point, the beginning of May, where they could arguably announce it's gonna May the 4th is
or that's
Obi-Wan.
when they drop the trailer. You imagine?
No, there's no way. I mean, I guess it's possible. I can't say no way. But I would assume if we're getting a trailer for Obi-Wan anytime soon, it will probably be with the announcement that it's going to be maybe May the 4th. That seems like the perfect launch time.
I mean, what's a better day of the year for Star Wars than May the 4th? But Ewan McGregor says it's going to have the perfect connective tissue between the prequels and A New Hope.
That's exciting.
Dude. And just understanding where Obi has been and what's happening story-wise, I think fans are going to enjoy that. It's going to be a really great time. Dude.
It's going to be fun.
Dude.
I'm trying to let myself not get so overly hyped.
You were the chosen one.
That's the one, man. I'm really jacked for that.
Yeah.
Really jacked for that.
Yeah. Do you know if Favreau or Filoni wrote any of those episodes? I need to Google that.
Yeah, I don't.
I wonder what their involvement is in that. If they're even producing it.
I don't know. I haven't. I think I knew this at one point. I mean, you can look it up easy enough.
So much information always constantly coming out, and it's always changing too, with like everything constantly in flux.
So we know it's directed by Deborah Chow, and then the writers on the series are Hannah Friedman and Hassan Amini, and then as far as producers, you got Deborah Chow, Kathleen Kennedy. So no, neither Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau are attached as producers or writers.
Oh man!
Well, so and Chow directed the entire series.
Oh wow, she's great. So that could be really, really cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun.
And this actually just broke. Just saw it on my phone. Not Star Wars related. It is DC related.
Okay.
DCEU related.
Okay.
James Gunn just said that he is officially working on something now, another TV series for the DCEU that's connected to the Suicide Squad. His quote is, "We are working on something else now, another TV show that's connected to that universe."
Bloodshot.
He added, "I can't quite say."
Bloodshot. Calling it.
I don't know. I mean,
it's Bloodshot.
Yeah. What if it's Harley Quinn?
No way. They've done too much. They've done too much with Harley Quinn.
Yeah, because she's kind of like Batman. Everyone loves her.
Do Bloodshot. Listen,
King Shark.
We already said
amazing King Shark episode.
I would love to see King Shark appear in both series. Because you could do a Bloodshot series and then have him appear in both the Peacemaker
and Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, and do like crossovers. I mean, that would be hilarious.
The next obvious
choice. But the Bloodshot would be a great
Bloodsport, you mean?
Pick. Bloodsport, I'm sorry.
Bloodsport.
I keep saying, did I say Bloodshot the entire time?
Probably.
Okay, whatever.
That's Valiant.
I meant Bloodsport.
Bloodsport, yeah.
Man, what is going on with me in names today?
They're so similar. I called Peacemaker Peacekeeper. Because Rick Flag dead. So you got Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Ratcatcher 2, King Shark, and Polka Dot. Oh, no, Polka Dot Man's gone too.
Yeah, Polka Dot Man's dead.
Oh, yeah. So it could only be Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, or Ratcatcher, or King Shark.
I'm calling Bloodsport. It's Bloodsport. It only makes sense. He was the coolest character in the entire movie.
I mean, yeah, him and Peacemaker were the two.
Yeah,
standouts
I think his story is by far the most compelling. They could do so much with that character.
He was great. He was great. Yeah, and it would be because you're already doing kind of the comedy side with Peacemaker, so I feel like you would need something a little more.
Do something more serious.
Yeah, a little different.
Yeah, and then you could do crossovers.
You could have King Shark and stuff jump in.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen episode 5 of Peacemaker yet, so let's see what happens when I watch that tonight.
Bloodsport. Make a Bloodsport.
Does that mean it's questions time, Tim?
Yes, I do believe so.
Questions?
I mean, we do also have the recent news that Emil Clark, well, not news, but the first look set leak photos of
Secret Invasion.
Emily Clark, acting on. Well, they were just set photos from the Secret Invasion.
Yeah, and
they showed her as, and the speculation is that she's going to be Abigail Brand, the commander of SWORD. But the way that she looks in the images, she looks like a kid, almost. The way they have her dressed.
Yeah. But she really just looks like she's going shopping at Whole Foods or something like that.
It looks like they caught her herself, just like going to Whole Foods or something like out on the street. But so that happened. But I don't know. That seemed to be all over the place, and I was like, okay, so what? But yeah, I do think it's interesting to find out whether who she's playing, because they haven't announced who she's playing officially. Again, the speculation is as Abigail Brand, which would be a cool ad, but it wouldn't be like mind blowing or anything.
No, yeah.
Because we already know they're going in the direction of Sword. They've already shown that to us in a couple of different points. Secret Invasion, I think, could be a fun show.
I'm very curious to see who
I'm a little bit
scrolls.
nervous about it because they said that they're not following the storyline of Secret Invasion. They did say that.
I mean, they do everything really loosely with all that stuff, though.
So I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. I'm not, and I guess my anticipations is not extremely high for that show.
I wonder if they're going to reveal like a character we've loved was a Skrull this whole time or something.
That's possible.
Captain America. Imagine if they do Steve dirty.
What if they say that about Black Widow?
She was a Skrull. Oh, and the real one's like, that'd be a fun.
Or
way
if
to
the
bring it
real
back.
one is still alive.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's not gonna happen. That'd be dumb.
No.
But anyway, we're taking questions from you guys today. That pretty much covered. Outside of Boba Fett, then this is really slow news week overall. We got some cool stuff with comics, but we wanted to take some questions from you guys. So we asked all of you in the Variant Nation to send us in your questions, things you would like us to answer. So you guys responded like crazy once again and sent in literally thousands across the platforms of questions. So we've sifted through some of them, and we are going to go through some of those and see how many we can answer over a little bit of time here.
Yeah. Like
so do you have one picked?
Yeah, I got one right here.
All right, so you go ahead and start.
Who would win, Tim? World Breaker Hulk or full powered Thanos? Asks Halter. Matson.
Oh man. I mean, are we talking about Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet?
Full powered, I'd imagine so. Yes.
I mean, if we're talking about Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, you got to say Thanos.
That's where I'm at. That's all right. Because if you're saying full powered, I'm like,
it depends on what you mean by that. Yeah.
And like, if it's without the Infinity Gauntlet, then World Breaker Hulk, obviously.
Yeah, then I'm going World Breaker Hulk.
But like, full power Infinity Gauntlet, like basically no one besides like the Living Tribunal and stuff beats Thanos.
Exactly. So I guess it really depends on the context. Well, who asked the question?
Halter or Matson.
Halter Matson.
Yeah.
On Instagram?
On Instagram, yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure, Halter. I'm not sure what you meant, but if you mean Infinity Gauntlet empowered Thanos, it's got to be Thanos. Because he can literally just
snap his finger
and remove Hulk from reality. So, it would have to be. But if we're just talking about mano a mano, the Thanos in his prime, strength-wise, without the Infinity Gauntlet, it's World Breaker Hulk. That dude would literally just rip him in half.
Curious to see what Donny Cates does with him in his Hulk title. See if he makes him even more powerful.
God, I hope so. I hope so. This whole thing with Banner of War and what Donny Cates is leading us to, with both the Hulk and the Thor titles, I'm so excited because, on top of what this crazy thing that he's doing with the Hulk and Bruce Banner, you've got this crazy, storyline that's been ongoing with Thor where he's been like just crazy OP, right? But he's got this problem going on with Mjolnir, which you imagine is going to come to some sort of a resolution. And, when he finally gets, to the place where he's fully resolved his issues, is that going to be where the two clash? To where you have this literally cosmic powered Odin Force powered Thor going against a Hulk that is just literally out of his mind.
I'm very curious because I know you're not current on the Thor book, but stuff is happening with Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And the God of Hammers has been revealed and stuff. So I'm wondering his power boost or even lack of power when he fights Hulk. Like, I don't know how it's going to end.
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read the last couple of issues. So I don't know.
But again,
we'll see.
With the gauntlet, Thanos without Hulk.
Yes. 100%.
So that goes to you.
So Rafael Costa asks, Secrets of Dumbledore thoughts. So thoughts on Secrets of Dumbledore, Arris?
I want to see it. Duh. No,
that's a very quick sum up.
No, I really enjoyed the first two Fantastic Beasts. Clearly, I don't like them as much as the Harry Potter films, but I grew up with those films. Right. I mean, that's literally like the core of the franchise. This is a continuation. I mean, it's the prequels, but you know what I mean? It's a continuation of like, hey, these movies and books were really successful. Let's tell a prequel. So I'm very excited to see a young Dumbledore. I think that's going to be great. And the fact that Jude Law is playing him is fantastic. I need to rewatch the first two Fantastic Beasts because it's been so long. I'll probably do that with my wife because she hasn't seen them, and she's a big fan of the Harry Potter films. But yeah, I'm super, super excited. And from the trailer, this looks like it could be the best out of the three that will now exist.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited about the switch to Mads Mikkelsen.
Johnny Depp, right?
Johnny Depp is now gone as Grindelwald. Having said that, Johnny Depp played Grindelwald awesome.
Dude,
did an
that
amazing
twist job. When Colin Farrell turned into Johnny Depp.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
I was like, I remember seeing that in theaters like, what?
Yeah,
how did you keep that a secret? Because first of all, it's Johnny Depp. You're like,
exactly.
What?
you're like, Jack Sparrow is Grindelwald?
Dude, so cool.
Like, so that was, I thought he did a great job, but with the direction things are going in terms of like the war between, Grindelwald's, cult and, Hogwarts and the wizarding world, the rest of the wizarding world, as well as the Muggle world, it was going to go more in a darker direction. And Mads Mikkelsen, I think, in my opinion, is so much more suited for that. He's just got such a dark edge to him, just naturally. Great example is Hannibal, him playing Hannibal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's one great example. Even him as Caecilius.
I haven't seen Hannibal, and everyone says it's fantastic.
The show?
Yeah.
Really?
Everyone says it's really good.
It's really good.
It's dark.
It's
obviously
very dark.
Is it on Netflix still?
I don't know if it's on Netflix.
It used to be,
right? I watched it on network television. My wife did. Because my wife loves that show, and so she would record it, and we would watch it.
I remember people raving about it,
really
but
good.
My wife gets squeamish with that kind of stuff because it's a guy who eats people.
Yeah, he's a cannibal.
So I didn't watch it, but I should probably go back and watch it.
Honestly, I was shocked at some of the things that they actually did on that show.
They got away with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, they full on, it's like cannibalism.
Like, I hear, like, he secretly would serve people, like, human hamburgers or stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they don't know they're eating humans.
Really dark.
Can you imagine you find out, like, you had a human hamburger?
Oh.
Like,
how would you ever know?
But like, if you found out after the fact, right? Let's say a week later, so you've already pooped the thing out. It's not even in your system anymore. Okay, it's gone, right? But just knowing, how much would that F with you?
Could you? One, I think you would be just traumatized. Like,
would
mentally.
you like throw up even if you found out like a week later?
They would. How would you not feel sick?
Oh my God, that would be horrible. That would be completely horrible.
That's horrible. Yeah. No, that's disgusting.
All right.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
But my point is, Mads Mikkelsen has a really dark, a natural dark edge to him that I think is going to serve really, really well with him playing Grindelwald as we move into this war.
He possibly could even have a cooler performance.
That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. It's just because the first two movies, I kind of in my mind, I'm kind of seeing, the original Fantastic Beasts and then the Crimes of Grindelwald. Those two movies kind of as like, the Sorcerer's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets, where they were a little bit lighter. There was a little bit more fun to them.
Do you know how many movies? So is it 4 movies total or 5?
I think it's 5.
Wow.
5 that they're doing.
So we got 2 left after this?
Yes.
Dang.
That's the last time I looked.
That's crazy.
So, I just really like the direction that it's going. I think that the look of it, I think the fact that we're going to get to see a lot of the mythology that was only discussed briefly in the Harry Potter stories, regarding Dumbledore and the Elder Wand and the Deathly Hallows and all that stuff. I really think that is super, super fun. I love that we're getting to explore these worlds in more depth. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes. I cannot wait to see some more Harry Potter universe stuff. Is that what it's called? The Harry Potter universe?
The Wizarding World.
The Wizarding World?
Yeah, the Wizarding World. So what's the next question?
Let's see. M.V. Willems from the Graham asks, in a new Ninja Turtle movie, what would you like to see? That's a good one.
In a new Ninja Turtle movie?
I'm gonna go like live action. I'm gonna assume that he's asking live action Ninja Turtle movie. Like if we could reboot the franchise again, they're like, hey, you can do Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
What's the story?
Oh wow. Goodness gracious.
Because everything it's been done.
I think I know.
You might be where I'm going to. Because we've already got the incredibly iconic and loved Jim Henson Turtles, live action Turtles from the the 90s and stuff like that.
Right.
And we've got the animated one, and I think early 2000s, and then we got the Michael Bay ones or whatever. I'm gonna go completely different, and so I would love to see a live action, like possible future look with The Last Ronin.
That is kind of the direction that I was going.
Because I think
explore like almost like an alternate, or a story that shows the turtles further down the line.
Because you could even recap the beginning of the movie, like have someone narrate, like, or like 30 years has passed. All the turtles are dead except one, and kind of explain the world, kind of like what the book did. Just kind of adapt that loosely and explain that, hey, there's only one turtle left, and he's fighting like the ancestor of Shredder and stuff like that, trying to bring redemption to his brothers and Master Splinter. I think that would be dope. It would be a little darker too. You could still make it PG-13, but like more on the darker side of PG-13. A lot of cool action. It would be more ninja stealth, not as poppy as normal. I can't speak. Normal turtles. A little more serious, and it'd be new and fresh. So that's what I would do. I'd do like a Last Ronin adaptation, live action.
Yeah, I think I would do something very similar. I would want to explore some different villains, but like Krang, like would be one that I would love to see them explore. If they did something live action. But I really...
the Mousers, that'd be cool.
The Mousers would be cool. But one of the things that they've never really done, I think, justice is the story of Shredder. So I would love to them experience like maybe like an origin story of Shredder.
Because it's really rooted in Japan and stuff. Like
exactly
you could do
right.
A lot of cool stuff.
Exactly. So you could do a ton of really cool stuff with that. And then introduce the turtles and maybe even like do an origin story for him and then leap forward in time. And because we already know the middle part, right? And then leap forward in time and show like later. So do earlier and do an origin of Shredder, and then let's jump forward in time and show what would it look like further down the line as the turtles and Shredder have been at war for a long period of time, and the consequences of that. The turtles have become, jaded by war and all of this. So, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like what they're doing in The Last Ronin. Maybe one or two of them have been killed in combat.
Yes.
That sort of a thing. And what does that mean for the rest of them? Again, this is playing off of, what they're doing already with The Last Ronin. They just went more dystopian than I would like to see them do. It would just more kind of like real world, a little like street level. It seems very serious for a Ninja Turtles, but, they've already done all the poppy,
that's
cartoony stuff. Yeah, do something that's a little bit more serious with it. I do think you have to retain some level of like self-awareness of like you're talking about Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I mean, they're still saying Cowabunga, okay?
Yeah.
Or The Last Ronin still saying Cowabunga.
So, but you could get a little bit more serious with it. But I think an exploration of the Shredder and an origin story for him, I think would be where I would start.
Word. That's up to you now then.
So here's it going back to the Wizarding World.
You're doing another Harry Potter one?
Yeah. So Evan Malman on Instagram actually asks two questions, and they're both related. So I'll just throw both of them in there. What are your thoughts on the new Lord of the Rings Rings of Power series for Amazon? And would you rather live in the Lord of the Rings Middle Earth or the Wizarding World?
Wizarding World. All day, every day.
I would argue this.
Well, I know, because your favorite thing in fiction is literally Lord of the Rings. That's like, it's your Batman.
Correct.
So, but I like Harry Potter a lot more. I grew up with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It's just, I like how more.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Dude, because, I don't know. The Wizarding World is cooler to me. It's more, I don't know, fun, I guess. I feel like it'd be more fun, where if I lived in the Lord of the Rings, it's like I'm constantly like, oh my God, some evil thing's gonna kill me. Clearly that's in Harry Potter as well, right. But it just feels more fun.
Yeah. It's definitely a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Obviously, because one was written in a more classical sense.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings seems a little more serious, I think is what it is.
Yes. Well, it was, it's an allegory, even though Tolkien's, argued that point very heavily. He wrote it in I will say an allegorical style, because I'm not going to contradict the man who wrote it. But it definitely dealt with elements of good versus evil in a more serious way, even though it was wrapped up in this fantasy world of Middle Earth. There is really deep mythology that he wrote to this thing, where it deals very much with, it has, remnants of, different religious belief but also philosophical arguments about the nature of good and evil and, human behavior and, it's God and the devil, all of that stuff. Harry Potter took a lot of what Tolkien did and just kind of like changed some things slightly and made it into like a wizarding world.
It's just
don't get me wrong. This is not a knock on J.K. Rowling. She's brilliant.
It's a classic story to tell. The best
form of flattery is impression. And authors throughout time, they borrow from each other and they improve on, or they tell their version of a thing. And even Tolkien, a lot of what he did, he borrowed from various mythologies and what's the word? Folklore from around the world. So they all do it. But there's a lot of similarities within Harry Potter and the story of the Lord of the Rings. But for me, for my take, I love both. I love both in their own way and for what they are. But Lord of the Rings, the richness of that world, the richness of the characters, the story, but also that slight serious edge that it gives to serious issues about, again, that the world around us and the nature of good versus evil and right versus wrong and that sort of a thing. It's just very compelling for me. I just love the way it's just so beautifully written and told. So for me, I would live in Middle Earth for sure. It's in New Zealand, so it's beautiful
I would
there.
live at Hogwarts. That's all I'm saying.
Can we build Hogwarts in Middle Earth?
I mean,
I'm sure you could make that happen. We could hire
Dumbledore to do a spell.
Well, the dwarves, they're really good at construction.
Oh, you mean build a replica?
Yeah, they're great stone builders and masons, so that we could get that. I'm sure to build it. But as far as the Rings of Power series on Amazon, I will say, Evan, I was crazy excited when they announced this deal, and
wasn't it $1 billion deal?
Yeah, it was just mad. Like all told, it's over $1 billion Amazon is spending on this series.
Crazy. This better be the best series to ever hit.
Dude, it's crazy. Like the amount of money that has gone into this, and they brought in this creative talent team to build and shape this thing based on the Second Age, and then there was a lot of news. People started dropping off for creative differences, and some of the things started coming out that what they might be doing with it, even though nothing has been confirmed. But I will say the things that I am aware of that have happened since they made the deal to move forward with this series has made me nervous. So I'm not as out of my mind excited about it, because these stories, the original films, I read the stories growing up, and I love them. And then the movies, Peter Jackson just blew that out of the water with the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. So I just desperately don't want it to get messed up. I don't want them to do their interpretation of these stories. I want them to go back and tell Tolkien's, because we have all the source material for what this world is, who these characters are, and how these events transpired. I just want them to tell that. That's what I want them to do. I don't want them to write their version of it. I don't want them to write some modern retelling or reimagining of it. I want them to tell the story that Tolkien wrote the same way Peter Jackson did. Even though Peter Jackson, he took plenty of liberties and he, to work it into a film, screenplay form, they did all kinds of changes. But everything was true to the story. A lot of the lines in the film are verbatim from the books. So, and but as far as all the narratives, the through lines, everything, the things that got changed was like when this scene happened in relation, relation to this one, or, things like that. So anyway, I just want that. So I am a little more nervous than I was before. I'm hoping that's what we get out of it, but we'll see. What do you think?
I'm not that big of a Lord of the Rings fan currently.
Just makes me sad.
Yeah, so like I don't have
every time.
I don't have nearly as much to say. I'm excited for it. I enjoyed the trilogy. I still haven't seen the third Hobbit film, the final Hobbit film. I know. What's the name of it again? I don't even remember the name of it. Look at that.
Battle of the Five Armies.
Battle of the Five Armies.
It's
There you go.
just so sad.
See, there we go.
It just makes me sad in my heart.
So I'm excited. I want to rewatch the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
It's
been so long, but the movies are so long.
Well, here's what you got to do. You got to get the books.
No, I'm not doing that.
Get the audio book alongside it.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing this right now with my son.
Wait,
okay?
you're watching
reading, No. He's reading The Two Towers.
Yeah.
And so I got him, I had it for myself, okay? I bought the audio book of Andy Serkis reading the entire trilogy of The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, my God.
Okay? So I downloaded this for my son because he's reading The Two Towers so he can listen to Andy Serkis reading it and doing the voices for the characters and all that stuff while he's reading it to kind of elevate his experience. That's how you should do it.
Or I could just watch the movie.
It's not the same.
Andy Serkis is in it.
He is.
Yeah, he's Gollum.
But you get the full breadth of the story. It's like reading a comic versus watching, our episode on the comic.
I don't know. I mean, you know what? It's one of those things where I'm sure if I revisit it, I probably will like a lot. And be like, oh my God, what took me so long to rewatch it? But it's just like there's so many other things out there that are grabbing my attention first and are currently happening that I'm like, I don't have time to devote 12 hours for 3 movies.
You know what this is reminding me of?
Because they're like 4 hours each with the director's cut or whatever.
Yeah, if you watch the director's cut, yes. You know what this is reminding me of? How long it took you to watch Dune.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We still haven't talked about it, even though you did watch it.
I did watch it, yes. I finally watched the new Dune, the 2021 Dune. I did it.
This is what this is reminding me of. Just sad in my heart. Just sad in my heart.
And I will say, real quick here, I liked the new Dune. I didn't love it as much as I guess a lot of people did. I liked it, didn't love it.
I think that it might have been overhyped for you.
That I agree with, but also for me, I feel, again, Dune is another property that I knew nothing really about. I never saw the original, I never read the books. I wasn't, not a big, never got into Dune really. Mm-hmm. But the movie, I was like, yeah, I'll watch the movie. It looks cool. I love sci-fi. Yeah. Saw it. What it felt like to me, I guess the perfect way to sum up my feelings on it is it felt like I watched part 2 of a movie without seeing part 1. Like I watched the sequel. It's like coming in on watching two towers without seeing Fellowship of the Rings.
Yeah, because you didn't feel like they developed the characters out enough.
Right. Like I obviously knew what's going on with the characters. I got the point, the overall arcing, where it's going, but it's still it was too vague for me. And I understand that it was supposed to be vague. They weren't spoon feeding you like a Marvel film or something, or giving you all this expositional dialogue. But it's still, I felt like they could have done more still. Still needed a little more.
A little more.
Something.
A little more cowbell.
Yeah, but no, it was visually beautiful. The sound, all that stuff, even the action sequences, the sandworm, all that stuff. Jason Momoa was great. Oscar Isaac was fantastic. Timothée Chalamet. Cast was great. It's just overall, I'm like, yeah, it's just the story moved a little slow for me. I wish they would have told me more.
I loved that movie. Loved it. It was so good, and maybe
I'm excited for the
I
sequel.
do understand what you're saying because I was already super familiar with the story.
Okay,
I'm already super familiar with the story, the characters, going back to the 80s. So I mean, the book is older than that, but
so you've read the book?
Well, I read one of the books. I saw the original film.
Yeah, okay.
So I read. Well, let's see. Did I read? I might have read the first 2 books. It's been a while. It's been a while. But so, and the point is, I was already familiar with the story and the characters and stuff like that. So that did not impact me in the same way. But I can definitely see how somebody who's coming in blind, it may not have felt as fleshed out, for you in the film. But even with that, the characters were so good.
The dragonfly spaceship helicopter thing was dope.
The visual effects were so good. The storytelling was great. I just thought all the way around, I just thought it was a really, really good movie. Loved it.
I'm excited for the sequel.
And I'm sad that we can't love it together. Is what I'm saying.
I liked it. I just didn't love it.
It's just we don't.
I would give it.
We don't love it in as a unit.
For me, if I had a grade, if I was a teacher and I'm like, hey, student, this is your grade,
student,
I would give it C+.
Jeez, that's bad. That's a bad
because
grade.
Visually and I mean that is more than sufficient passing. Okay, you are passing.
Jeez.
You are high average.
Whatever.
But should we do one more question?
Yeah, we'll do one more each, and we'll wrap it up.
All right. So this is a fun one for both of us, actually. Liam C. Davis asks, which 2 characters would you want to see interact from Marvel and DC?
Oh, wow.
I already got
a
mine.
Crossover?
Yeah, so if one DC character meets one Marvel character,
okay,
what would you want to see? I feel like, also, this popped right in my head real quick. I was like, Batman, Deadpool.
Batman, Deadpool?
Because Batman's so serious.
Didn't they already have a comic, a Batman, Deadpool comic?
Not that I remember.
Crossover comic?
I
don't know why is that popping into my head as familiar.
I just think it's funny because I'm thinking of like Ryan Reynolds or just Deadpool in general, like that slapsticky, like crazy Deadpool. And then with Batman, is super serious.
Right.
Who has a contingency also to like beat anyone.
Right.
So, but I would like to see them work together though. Like,
That's
I think
cool.
that would be funny because it's like seeing them fight. It's like the obvious thing. Oh, who would win, Batman or Deadpool? It's like Batman has to play for everything. Yeah, I've been there, done that. I want to see them work together.
That could be interesting.
That'd be funny.
That'd be interesting.
Like if they did a crossover and Batman's forced to work with
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
It's like a more mature version of Batman Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Like it would be cool. Like somehow, because the only way you could really immobilize Deadpool is like blowing up his head or getting rid of his limbs and stuff like that. So it'd be funny if like Amanda Waller somehow put a bomb or some kind of special device for him in the back of his head,
right,
that is forcing him to help like the Dark Knight or something like that for whatever reason a writer would come up with. I want to see that.
That's pretty. That could be fun. That could be fun. Man, I don't know. There's so many different options that you could go with. Off the top of my head, I don't know why.
Hulk and Ant-Man.
No, get out.
Oh, those both Marvel. What am I talking about? That's both Marvel. Hulk and the Atom. There we go.
Although the first thing that did pop into my head was Lex Luthor versus Charles Xavier.
Battle of the Balds?
Yeah, Battle of the Balds.
Can I be in that book?
Yeah, just too intelligent. But, I kind of feel like, well, Charles Xavier would just kind of destroy him because of his telepathic powers. So the other one that I was thinking of, because when you said Batman, Deadpool, I was thinking of Batman and Magneto. I love the idea of mutants crossing over into the DC universe and coming face to face with some of the Justice League members and stuff like that. I love the mutants anyway. I grew up with the X-Men series and all that kind of stuff, and it was kind of like during my formative years. So I have a little bit of a
X-Men versus
bend towards the
X-Men versus Justice League could actually be really, really cool.
X-Men versus
Justice League
is very cool.
You got Omega level mutants and stuff like that on X-Men. So that would be able to easily combat people like Superman and Wonder Woman.
But I also like the personality, because when I'm looking at these crossovers, I'm thinking of like the personalities of the characters and how they would. And I don't look at it like, oh, the team up. I'm looking at conflict. I don't know why I immediately, like, what I want to see is I don't want to see like a team up of two characters. I want to see like a villain versus in one universe versus a hero in another, and the conflict of the two, because the personalities that I think match up a little bit better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Team ups is like, that's fine, that's cool, but I would rather see like the personality clashes of this villain and
like
that
someone
hero.
like Punisher who's cool with killing people, but like Nightwing or Batman who's not.
Yes, exactly.
Well.
Something like that, I think, would be super cool.
That's dope.
Yeah. So that my last one is, if you had, this is kind of a big one. This is Kid Kenobi and Twitter at Kid Kenobi 297. If you had the chance to direct a superhero film / TV show, what character or characters would you want to focus on?
That's a
heavy handle.
Yeah,
but a great question.
Like
that's a thought provoking one.
I feel like I need time to give like a full final answer on that one, because that's like, I don't even want to do research to be like, am I forgetting someone?
Yeah, there's so many opportunities.
Like, Disney or Warner Brothers, like, hey, you could do any superhero movie you want. I'd be like, okay, well, I need to take a minute before I give you my final answer. It's like, who wants to be a millionaire? Because once I say it, there's no takes backsies.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like me and you're directing it, I'm gonna land on some of the characters that I don't feel have been done like proper justice, because a lot of them have already been done at this point. Obviously, there's a ton of options that have not been explored yet.
Yeah.
Having said that, some of the ones that would be at the top of my list are now being done, i.e., Dr. Fate.
Moon Knight was one of mine.
Moon Knight would have been one of mine. Bruce Banner, and exploring Bruce Banner as a character. in a more serious way than they have done to date.
Mm-hmm.
And exploring that character and some of it, particularly regarding around the story of World War Hulk, and really fleshing that out and that story where Hulk goes full. He was betrayed by the Avengers, or he feels betrayed by the Avengers. He was, and he just goes like total, savage. And they have to come face to face with that, and both Avengers have to reconcile their own guilt, along with, Bruce Banner having to wrestle with him wanting to just destroy and kill everyone, and the wrongful nature of that. Just to explore that, I think would be incredible. But a lot of the ones that I would immediately gravitate towards they're already doing. Black Adam is another big one that I would have kind of gone in that direction. But there are definitely some that are out there that there's plenty of, even in characters that have been explored, there's plenty of stories and that you can tell with those characters that are some of the best that have not been explored.
I think, I would kind of like to do, because the first one that'll come in my head is obviously like Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorite characters. We saw him briefly in the Snyder Cut, but like very briefly.
Yep.
It'd be cool because it would be this awesome like space sci-fi superhero adventure where we'd see like what happened to his planet, why he's scared of fire, how he came to Earth, and that would be really, really cool. Booster Gold would be dope. I like the idea of Booster Gold because in my head I would kind of, he's a superhero right from the future. So I think, but he's a
very different type of hero too.
Very different, and he's got like advertisements and all this stuff, and he's kind of like a funny character, almost like Peacemaker-ish. I think that would be really fun. Yeah, those are the two. Or even just a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle team up episode because they're
we got the Blue Beetle coming, so
we do, but that's a different. That's the newer Blue Beetle. I would like to do the original Blue Beetle, but I think those are the two that first come to my head. It's hard, man. Martian Manhunter and Booster Gold for sure. I know there's probably like, oh yeah, that would be dope. Oh, Nightwing. They haven't done Nightwing probably.
They have not done Nightwing.
And that's totally my wheelhouse sense as far as like knowledge and stuff. Like I think I could really do a lot of cool stuff with Nightwing. Or at least come up with cool ideas because we got him in like live action Titans. Sure. That doesn't count. I want to do it in like a movie setting, like proper, huge, like $100 million budget, like all these DC Marvel movies
Go
out
all
there.
in with it.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, my thought on Nightwing always leans towards it would be very similar to Batman,
but not though because he's a bright. Yes, but he's like the bright side. He's like the the positive side of Batman, the bright side of Batman.
It's true. It would definitely be different.
The version who healed a little more properly.
Yeah.
Or Batman's that scar tissue just built up.
But I think in the end I would probably want to, because I've explored different ideas in the past, but like I would probably land on something exploring in more depth an origin of a character or a backstory, or filling in a story around a known character that fills in gaps that are missing, both maybe from comics or from cinematic or television lore, or what's been told in the past. Something like even like an origin of Magneto, something like that. And what fill in some gaps of what happened with him between this point and this point. I would gravitate towards characters like that are really wrapped up. That's why I said the Hulk too.
Yeah,
that they have really compelling backstories where there's a lot of tools to play with, in that character's particular toy box, where you can really wrestle with like some human elements as well as like the responsibility of like having this monstrous power, along with all these, the real world philosophical and psychological elements of humanity and all of that. So I would gravitate towards something like that, because I just think that those things are really fun to explore, and you can tell them in such a way where you're getting the best of both worlds. Really compelling story with like just a dope visually and, with action and all that kind of stuff. You can really mix those two really well.
Well, there we have it. That's what we would do.
Yeah. That wraps up our questions from you guys for this week. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions.
Yes.
We are going to be doing this probably about once or twice a month. We'll be taking questions from all of you guys.
No, every day.
We'll be answering,
every single day.
We'll be answering as many of them as we can when we do so. But again, thank you guys so much for sending in all your questions, and
keep sending them.
Yeah, keep sending them in, and be watching out for when we throw it to you guys to send in new questions.
On the socials, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff.
That's right.
That also brings today's podcast to a close.
Yes, it does.
So with that, friends, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.